The island. Imagine waking up in the middle of nowhere and you realize the only thing around you is this island. Now, this story may seem strange. Well, that's because it was. The last thing I remember before was I was on a cruise. Honestly, I've been working too hard. Normal day-to-day office guy. Go in, clock in, go to my desk, do my job, go home, fall asleep, repeat it over and over and over. Seemed like an endless, boring loop. But I got this email from the company and they said, hey, you're entitled to a discount on this cruise because you worked for 10 years. Whoopee. 10 years working for the same company and I got a discount for cruise. But honestly, I haven't taken a vacation in about 5, so I decided, it made sense. Head on this cruise. Well, everything seems normal. It's not overly expensive, obviously, knowing the company, but I guess it's better than I thought it would be. Had a pool. Had maybe 4-star catering. The hotel, well, like where I was staying, wasn't the biggest. Kind of just enough for a bed and a small desk in the corner. But the water was nice. Remember the first night I decided to go out by the railing and look outside. Wasn't too bad. The calming water. And the moonlight just reflecting off of it. It was chill. It was nice. About 3 days in, kind of got a little bit boring. So I decided to do some of the cool things that they has. It was about a 2-week long cruise, by the way. But they had shuffleboard, bowling, swimming, obviously. Had karaoke night, and it also had comedy night, which was a day to where it starts off with an actual comedian, but anyone in the ship could go. So the comedian goes up. I obviously go to a comedy night, and the comedian goes up. He was okay. He was kind of like one of those guys that like he's good enough to laugh with or at, but not good enough to actually like play anything other than a cruise, because a whole bunch of old people don't have any humor. And then a couple of random people started showing up. There was like this 14-year-old kid. He was very nervous. He wasn't bad though, gotta admit. He had some good jokes. Then he got a couple 20, 30-year-olds. It was a 7-year-old. I guess his mentality was he's gonna die anyway, so just tell jokes that don't matter. He definitely went a little bit more of the offensive side. But it was funny for me. I don't know, it was my sense of humor. May not have been the best for a family cruise, but it's not bad. And yeah, I don't know, it wasn't a bad night, day 3. I went back to my room and ate on my bed. Yeah, we were in a big ship, but the water still controlled us, so it was kind of soothing and also scary at the same time, having Mother Nature kind of rock you to bed. Could be worse though. About halfway through the night I realized that, well, my phone fell off my bed. I heard a big bunk, and phone slides off the bed. Turns out everything starts sliding off of everything. The ship was sinking. It was going in the water sideways. It was unfortunate. I woke up. I obviously grabbed my phone, got up, ran out the room, grabbed anything that I thought was decently valuable and put it on me. I hear screaming, kids crying. Soon as I wake up, actually, the alarm starts going, emergency alarm. And well, that's when everything became a lot more real. It wasn't just, hey, it might be sinking. It's, oh, hey, is it sinking? 10 years of my life working for a company for me to get a discount to a cruise to where the ship ends up sinking. I know. Crazy, right? Well, going to the evac thingy. You know, the dinghy. That's what they call it. There's huge lines on them. Half the dinghy's already in the water. Because that half of the ship already sank. So we're already cut down massively on them. And everyone obviously is putting the life vest on. I put on the life vest, and one of the last few things I can remember is a loud cranking sound, like a, and I look up, and it was a part of the ship was because it was tilted on such an angle, it was beginning to fall. This is when I, well, began to run. I ran undercover. So when I was under the cover, it made the roof that I was under kind of concave a little bit. A light fell, dinked me in the head. I was feeling a little bit woozy, but obviously with all the adrenaline, I gotta get out. So I try to make my way to a dinghy. I'm stumbling. I'm trying to make it there as best I can. I touch my head. Luckily, I'm not bleeding, but I swear I have a concussion. One of the last dinghies seems to have left, and that's fun. At this point, the ship is practically almost fully submerged, and I'm here with a headache and a life vest, and I don't know where to go, nor do I know where I am. I guess once I seen the dinghy's gone, my hope began to fade, and well, I blacked out. Hence why I woke up at the island. Nothing around me. I could only assume that the life vest saved me, and when I passed out, I had my head up. I'm on the beach to where, like, most of the water is still, like, rushing up me. I try to stand up or get up. A little bit difficult, obviously, because I passed out initially due to a concussion of a giant metal thing bonking my head. And, well, I guess this is where a story truly begins. I'm on the island. There isn't much off the island, but it's a big one. I look and I could tell, like, this is a solid size island. Like, not too big to where, like, there's a civilization on it, but big enough to where I decently believe there's some sort of animal and some sort of life going on. At this point, I would say it's like maybe 12. It's kind of like evening, early afternoon. Only reason why I know that is because the sun was almost in the center of the sky. So I kind of didn't know which way was east, which way was west either. I could only assume the direction to which I came from, but I was knocked out the whole time, so I could have just spun around the island for a lot before I landed, so who really knows? I used to watch some of these adventure shows every once in a while. and be like, if you're ever stranded, you know, like the Bear Grylls guy. If you're ever stranded, do this and do that. Blah, 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 blah. So I guess that's what I started to do. I found like these palm trees and like these trees with like some big ass leaves, and I like kind of tied them together in a way that I saw him do on the TV show, and use it as like a water bottle or like a water holder. I was beginning to make a little bit of shelter because, as far as I was concerned, I don't think anyone's ever gonna come for me. Knowing I'm just an office dude, I don't know. Are they really gonna miss a guy who just shows up, clocks in, goes to his desk, doesn't speak to anyone, and then just clocks out? If they're gonna save anyone, they would save people more important than that. So I began to make a home for myself. Initially, I didn't want to give up hope completely. So I made a giant fire beacon, like they always do. And let's just say it did do a lot of smoke. I had it running for about 3 days, kept on going up, fueling it with, you know, leaves and stuff. After the 3rd day, I think that's kind of when I gave up. And that's when I stopped. At this point, I made a small little shelter. There was a little divot into the ground, so I kind of made half the shelter is on the ground and half the shelter is over ground. Kind of made my work a little bit easier. But these trees were huge. They did provide me with a lot of cover. I remember on the 2nd night I was hearing some sounds that I'd never really heard before. I was definitely scared. Obviously, I'm all alone on this island. On the 3rd day, I started making spears and stuff. Literally anything to just keep me alive, I guess. I would say on the 4th day, the sounds in the night were a little bit too much. It sounded like whatever animals I was hearing are getting closer, and I personally didn't like that idea. So day 5 in the morning, I decided I'm gonna make a cool ass treehouse. 1, it's off the ground. 2, it looks really cool. And 3, it's off the ground. So I started my construction. I initially found a really, really big tree. Like, the tree was so thick I couldn't hug it. It was a big tree. What I ended up doing was I got some wood from a fallen tree and some other trees, and I kind of cut in the big tree. It's difficult to explain, but I made wooden planks, and with these wooden planks, I placed them inside of the tree in order to use them as like a spiral staircase. I hope that makes sense. So here I am with my spiral staircase going up to this big tree. You know, this tree, I would say where I started building was around 20 feet off the ground, and I would say this tree goes up to 40, maybe 45. It's a big tree. What I ended up doing was I ended up tying some vines together to make a big, big vine, and I hooked it up to the tree. And then I was making more and more and more vines, and to the point to where I was able to make a vine bridge. So from one tree to another tree. 'Cause, you know, transportation. The first night I kind of slept on the first tree with the planks. It was not the most comfortable, but it was definitely safe. And I guess I kept on working for the next 2 weeks. At this point, 2 weeks in, I've made connections to about 5 trees, and I've made an actual home up there. It's not bad. I was able to make a fishing rod with the wood that I've chopped and the string, so fishing was nice. I started hunting animals. It was like little like boars and pigs and stuff just laying around, so went after those. Honestly, things weren't the worst. After about a month, I kind of wondered, would I really want to go back? Hear the constant fear of death. Yeah, it's scary because it's the constant fear of death, but it's better than waking up, clocking in, sitting at the desk, going home. Same old every day is different. Every day I can die, so it actually gives me a reason to want to live. 2 months in. Oh, I haven't really spoken to anyone at this point, so I guess my English is kind of messed up. I started speaking to animals though. Started learning them. The first group of animals I wanted to learn was birds. I knew they could sing. So I'll do this thing that I learned when I was younger. But you would put your hands together and you would blow into them, and it would make like a bird call. And I was able to practically use that to communicate to the birds. Obviously, it took about 3 weeks, but honestly, it was worth it. Whenever there was any danger around, my friend called him James the Bird. James the Bluebird. He would just go wah, 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 wah. And I would be like wah, 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 wah. I don't know. He warned me of danger, which is nice. And trust me, there was danger. 3 months in was when I really started to face some issues. Whatever that sound was that I heard on the 3rd and 4th night, it was getting louder. And it was getting angrier. I feel like it realized that I decided to elevate myself to stay away from it, but I don't think I understand how hungry this thing was. There was times to where I would wake up to scratch marks on the path that I made. The spiral staircase. And at a certain point, I guess I had like a good enough fruit farm and berry farm at the top. I decided I don't think I'm gonna go down anymore. And luckily I didn't. I would say after 3 months and 2 days in, I saw it in the daylight. It was this 8-legged lion cheetah looking thing. It was all black. Pitch black. 4 legs in the front, 4 legs in the back. It seems like it inhales through its nose, but there's like gills on its chest, like the rib cage is where it exhales. And when it exhales, you see it like flubbering in a way. When it was panting after running around the tree over and over again, it was definitely a sight to see. I feel like the scariest thing is you could hear it roar, you could hear it growl, but it makes very little sound when it's on the ground. I sometimes began to climb, or tried to. I put defense systems down. Pretty much what that is just spikes pointing downwards because I'm never gonna need to get back up. Pretty much just saying I live up from now on until those things die of hunger. The question was, am I gonna run out of food before it dies of hunger? Only one way to find out. Every day, every night, it stayed at the bottom of my treehouse. I didn't like the way it always looked like it was thinking. The next day, 3 months, 5 days in at this point, another one showed up. I'm gonna call this death, because there's no other word that comes to my mind when I think of these animals. So there was 2 deaths at the bottom of my tree. At this point I knew I was gonna climb, so I had to make my own defenses on top of the spikes. I made spears, tons of spears. I would go from tree to tree to tree. At this point I would say I have almost 5 trees just designated to myself, and within those 5 trees there's paths between all of them, you know, using my rope system, the vines. And that's when I began to realize the flaw in my ingenuity. That was, if they get up any one of these 5 trees, or even one of the ones that are close to it, to jump onto any one of these 5 trees, they could sprint across those vines to kill me at any moment. And if it's the nighttime, I won't be able to see. About 3 days later, there's 3 deaths at the bottom of my tree. At this point, I knew it was going to be soon. Kinda wish I was back at the office. Things were way simpler back then. But you can't just go back. I prepared. I had more spears. I made some slingshots with the vines. I made some traps or easy ways to cut the bridges. I tried my best. The next night, I'm sleeping, and I feel my tree moving. It wasn't like it normally does with the wind. It was like it was being pulled. That's because it was. It was getting pulled by the other tree. 2 of them have made it up, and they are walking across the rope. From a distance, I have been training for this, so I threw the spear and I cut the rope. And I heard one of them drop and kind of splatter. In a way, it definitely hit the ground hard enough for it to get knocked out. I heard the scraping of the nails of another one. It was clawing at the tree. And I heard this screech come out of it. It started sprinting vertically up the tree. It was insane. I heard it clawing, but I couldn't see it because it's pitch black. I don't have a light. All I have is the moonlight, and I see its shadow. Or what I think was its shadow, but it turns out it was just it. I cut the vines to all the other trees. At this point, it's just my tree isolated. I see it 3 trees away. I can't see much, but I see its eyes. It's looking right at me. I could hear it growl. I could hear it growl. Growl so loud, it's as if it's right beside me. It echoes in anger. It feels like, even though it's staring at me from afar, it feels like it's breathing down my neck. I feel afraid. I feel it coming closer. I feel like I'm gonna die. And as I stare at it for longer, as I look at it 3 trees away and hear it growl, feel the vibrations of the growl, I just feel like it's breathing right down my neck. I realized one thing. I saw 3 of them at the bottom of my tree in the day. One dropped. One was in front of me. And the other one was breathing down my neck.